The world is louder and more chaotic than ever. That's why clarity and truth have never been more important. Welcome to the Trust Factor Podcast.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Trust Factor Podcast. I'm really glad you can make it. I want to finish off what we talked about yesterday, but before we get into it, I want to make a request. Please share, like, comment. If you have friends that you know would benefit from this podcast, invite them to join. Happy to add them to the WhatsApp group, which is the group that's kind of exclusive and where everybody gets their first crack at the content that's put out every day. I'm also happy to field questions. There are people who get in touch with me almost every day and asking questions. Some I can answer, some I cannot, and I will point them to the right halachic authority to answer it if it's got to do with halacha, but if it's got to do with common sense. Often people have difficulty in a world that is so confusing and filled with chaos and misinformation. They simply don't know how to make good decisions, and that's okay. And that's what I'm here for. So a lot of people reach out, and I'm happy to help when I can. Just to let you know, over the past year since we've started this podcast, which is the first time I've ever entered into a foray like this, where I'm out there in the public sphere and posting, and I'm not spending any marketing dollars. I'm not putting out any advertising campaigns. It's just me. Posting what you see online comes directly from me, and that's it. I'm a one-man crew. Now, despite all that, we've managed to have over 10,000 downloads just in the past year alone. And when you take into account the social media posts and the videos that I started doing last month with regards to current events and viewing current events from a Torah perspective, putting everything into a Torah perspective, because if not, you will get lost and you will get depressed like never before in the world that we're in today. And so I decided to combat a lot of the negativity out there, a lot of the miserable posts by so many of these quote unquote influencers with good, real Torah values and ideas. And since I started putting those out, we've got over 50,000 views a month. That's a pretty big number, guys. I'm no Joe Rogan, but I don't claim to be. And who knows where it's going to go from here. These videos just started going out last month. People are obviously enjoying them. So please do your part, because it's all because of you guys sharing it, commenting on it, and liking it. So keep doing that. And together, we'll make sure that good messaging gets to good people and to bad people, because we know there are plenty out there who are misguided and doing things that are hurting society. And this message needs to get to them as much, if not more, than the good people, because the good people aren't out there causing the problems that these people are. So let's get the messaging out there. In a world filled with confusion, let's be clear. Let's be the source of clarity. And before we get into it, one last comment. Apologies to all of you guys who have that new Trust Factor anthem drilled into your head. It's a catchy tune, I know. My wife woke up last night in the middle of the night and it was ringing in her head. It's a really catchy tune. I'm really enjoying it. Commentary and feedback, guys, is always, always welcome. If by some unfortunate circumstance you happen to find yourself in a prison cell, incarcerated, removed from society, hopefully that never, ever happens to anybody, but it can, and it does. And if you find yourself in that position, then it is incumbent upon you to recognize that the Creator, your Father, the one who loves you, who also gave you the Torah, the instruction manual for life, he put you there. And the reason he put you there, think about this, is to say, listen, when you were out in society, you were simply too distracted. You weren't able to reach the pinnacle of your success in terms of your spiritual and emotional growth. And because of that, I've removed you from society and I put you in seclusion. That means you don't have to take the kids to school. You don't have to make them breakfast. You don't have to even make their beds. You don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to go to the office. You don't have to deal with your parents and your in-laws. You have nothing to do with the outside world. AKA, you only have time for spiritual and religious connection. That's it. Connect back to your Creator. Throughout Jewish history, throughout the ages, some of the biggest giants in Torah have created their masterpieces from behind bars. So much Torah wisdom came out from rabbis who were incarcerated, oftentimes because of something that they did not do. They were wrongly accused. That shouldn't come as a surprise, because we are the most persecuted nation per capita in the world throughout history. And so governments have falsely accused some of the biggest rabbis and put them in prisons for extended terms. Some have passed away in prisons. But while they were in there, that was their opportunity for spectacular growth, and they took it. And so nothing is different in the year 2026. Again, you should never find yourself in that situation. But let's take it out of that situation for a second. Let's assume you're not in a prison. Let's assume that you have a hiatus, an opportunity for a hiatus to get away from the day-to-day, to disconnect at a certain stage of your life and just move to another country and not be involved in the mundane day-to-day. What are you going to do? How much can you swim? How much can you eat? How many video games can you play? I don't know anybody who plays video games anymore, but you get the idea. How much of the mundane ridiculousness can you do already before your brain turns to mush? If that's where your head is at, you're in the wrong place. As soon as you find yourself in a situation where you are freed from the obligations of the craziness of day to day, obviously we need our downtime. Take that downtime, relax, unwind, unplug. Everybody needs that. Absolutely everybody. But once you've done it and you recognize that you've reached that point where you are now in a position to get back up and start to be productive, then your entire focus should be on spiritual growth and emotional growth. That's the whole idea. It also says on top of that logically, an inmate should be well-disciplined and respectful to the guards and the prison authorities and kind to his fellow inmates. Where do we learn this from? The same thing as yesterday, the story of Joseph. We take a page from his book. A person with emunah who's striving to repent will also be careful about fulfilling the commandments between man and fellow man in prison. You're not thinking about how to get ahead. You're thinking about how to continue to do the commandments that you're obligated to. Just because you're in prison doesn't mean you're not obligated to these commandments anymore. As long as you can fulfill them, you're obligated. Conducting yourself in a noble way behind bars invokes everyone's admiration. Because remember, you're in a place full of people who are criminals and often behave badly. And so if you're now becoming this beacon of proper behavior, of respect, and of honor, then you will receive enhanced divine compassion. An inmate needs to respect everybody from his fellow inmates to the guards and the prison authorities, never deviating from the bounds of decency. That threat is heightened, that now you're going to lower yourself to the lowest common denominator, that now you are among people who are potentially behaving very badly, devoid of honor and respect, treating guards badly. And it will be a natural inclination for you, especially when you see that there is a corrupt system operating within the jailhouse, that if you don't stoop to that level, you may be missing out. You will have that temptation and you should avoid it at all costs. All of a person's good deeds add up. Ultimately, he receives a reversal of heavenly judgment that manifests itself as a speedier release from prison. I want to point out to you that there's an individual, a Jewish Orthodox Hasidic man by the name of Rubashkin. I think it's Shalom Rubashkin. Look him up because he has an unbelievable story. Now, I didn't read all the details of his story, but over the years, I've gotten snippets of it. This is an Orthodox Jew, and he found himself working as a CEO, I believe, of a kosher food factory in the U.S. that came under the attack of first the unions and then the federal government. And he was ultimately arrested. Again, I don't know the details, but I know that it was very shady in terms of why they arrested him. He was sentenced to some ridiculous sentence of 27 years, I believe. And he was ultimately released after President Trump pardoned him after 8 years of incarceration. But if you get a chance to read his story, you will see exactly what I'm talking about here with regards to how he conducted himself. Not only with regards to how he conducted himself, with regards to the people who surrounded him and the guards and the prison authorities, but this individual stuck to his morals and his ethics and his creator's laws like it's nobody's business, in a way that most people can't stick to them outside of prison. Here he found himself operating within the confines of a system that strips you of your human rights and your dignity to an extent. Never mind the ability to enjoy and to thrive like you would outside of prison, to be able to do all of the things that the Torah commands us. You are severely limited. And despite that, this individual made demand after demand. And he didn't do it in a way that made it seem like he was entitled. He did it in a way that was honorable and respectful, where he made simple statements that said, I'm a Jew. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I follow the laws of the Creator, the same Judeo-Christian values that the world operates on. I follow them more than most people do. And as a result of that, I need to continue to follow them. It's not an option for me. And you will see the open miracles that happened to this individual. Exceptions were made in ways that you wouldn't believe, that never before happened, to be able to get this individual all of the accommodations that he needed, because he was unwilling to bend, unwilling to yield, and to move away from the truth. Just like that individual I was telling you about last week, that Orthodox Jew walking around in the summer heat with layers of clothes on because that's who he identified as, and would not move away from that no matter what the temperature was outside. This Rubashkin refused to budge on any of the commandments that he was commanded to keep, that was reasonably expected to be able to cater to in that prison system. And as a result of that, he got almost everything that he wanted. It's a beautiful story. You should read it. I mean, it's a very sad story because you see an individual getting incarcerated again for something that he shouldn't have been, and certainly not given the sentence of 27 years in prison. And that's why he was released after 8 years. But the message of what he did and how he conducted himself inside that prison system is a very, very inspiring one. Many former inmates have said that their self-strengthening in emunah made their lives behind bars so much easier. Emunah helped them to rehabilitate themselves and to achieve the personal growth that stayed with them their entire lives. I'm not promoting prison here, guys. I'm not condoning acts of criminality and violence that ends you up in prison so that you can grow spiritually. That's not the right place to be. In fact, we have a very big mitzvah of raising whatever funds it takes and going to whatever extent we need to be able to free an imprisoned Jew. It's not the right place for a Jew to be, not for any reason. But if you happen to find yourself there, recognize that you were put there by a loving Creator. The message is, I've removed you from the noise of society, and I've put you in a place where you have nothing but time to focus on you and your spiritual growth and your connection back to your Creator. If you find yourself in that position, that is the approach, my friends. You don't have to be in prison. You can be outside of prison, but if you find yourself in a time and place where you have an abundance of excess time and a limited amount of responsibility and commitment that demands your time, then focus that excess energy and time into your spiritual growth, because that sends the message to your Creator. Hashem, when you give me the extra time that we all so badly want, I will use it correctly. I will use it in the right way to be able to grow, to be able to connect back to you, to be able to achieve the highest level of perfection that I can achieve in this go-around. That's it for today, my friends. Have an amazing day, and we'll chat again tomorrow.
Thank you for spending time with us on the Trust Factor podcast. If you've heard something today that moved you, save this episode and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming conversations that challenge, empower, and uplift. And if you're on social media, connect with us. Leave your thoughts. Drop a quote that resonated with you. Hashtag the Trust Factor podcast. Until next time, keep growing in your trust and keep living with purpose. I'm Jesse Revivo, and this has been the Trust Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.